In a peaceful and lush green village, Aidan had always dreamed of being a singer. From a young age, he found comfort in music, humming melodies as he walked, writing lyrics in his notebook, and imagining himself performing on a grand stage. His family always told him he had a gift, but outside of them, no one had ever heard him sing. Why? Because fear held him back. At the time, he thought about singing in front of an audience. Doubts crept into his mind. What if people laugh at me? What if they say, I'm not good enough? What if I embarrass myself and ruin my dream before it even starts? These fears became chains, restricting him from pursuing his passion. He admired others who fearlessly performed on stage, wondering how they had the confidence to do it. He convinced himself that they must not be afraid, that they must not care about what people thought of them. What the truth was, they had the same fears everyone does. The only difference was that they didn't let those fears stop them. Aidan, however, let his fear of judgment silence his voice. He found excuses not to perform, telling himself he wasn't ready or that he needed more practice. But deep down, he knew the real reason he was too focused on what others might think. One evening, as he sat on a park bench lost in thought, an old man sat beside him. The man had a calm and wise presence, and after a few moments of silence, he spoke. You seem troubled, young man. What's on your mind? Aidan hesitated but then sighed, deciding to open up. I want to be a singer, but I'm too afraid of what people will think. What if they criticize me? What if they don't like my voice? The old man listened carefully, then chuckled softly. Ah, the fear of judgment. It stops more people than failure ever will. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, empty cup. Handing it to Aidan, he said, I want you to take this cup and walk through the marketplace. Hold it out in front of you, but don't ask for anything. Just observe. Aidan was confused, but followed the old man's instructions. The marketplace was alive with activity vendors shouting, customers bargaining, children running around. He walked slowly, holding the cup in front of him, feeling self-conscious at first. People are going to stare at me. They'll think I'm crazy, he thought. But as he continued, something unexpected happened. Almost no one paid attention to him. A few glanced at him briefly, but most were too busy with their own tasks to notice. After a while, he returned to the old man, still puzzled. Hardly anyone noticed me, he admitted. The old man smiled. Exactly. People are too occupied with their own lives to focus on you. We think the world is watching us, but in reality, most people are too caught up in their own worries. And even if someone does judge you, their opinion is fleeting. But if you let that fear stop you, the regret will stay with you forever. Aidan was silent, letting the old man's words sink in. For so long, he had believed that people were watching and judging his every move. But the truth was, they weren't. And even if some did, why should their opinions define his choices? That night, he made a decision with no longer live in fear of judgment. A week later, he signed up for an open mic night at a small cafe. When the night arrived, his heart pounded as he walked onto the stage. His hands trembled as he held the microphone, and for a moment the fear returned. But if they don't like me, what if I mess up? But then he remembered the old man's lesson. He reminded himself that most people were too focused on their own lives to judge him harshly, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter in the long run. Taking a deep breath, he began to sing. At first, the room was silent, and that silence felt deafening. But as he continued, something incredible happened. The audience listened. Some closed their eyes, swaying to the music. Others smiled. When he finished, the room erupted into applause. Aidan couldn't believe it. The fear that had held him back for years had been nothing more than an illusion. After the performance, several people came up to Aidan, complimenting his voice and asking when he would perform again. He realized something power people respected courage. They admired those who dared to follow their passion. Of course, not everyone would love his voice. Some might even criticize him, but he had learned an important lesson. No matter what you do, people will always have opinions. You can't control that, but you can't control whether or not you let it stop you. Aidan continued to sing, performing at more events, and even recording his own songs. With each performance, his confidence grew.